to say.
All guests come to you from the Folsom Lake Honda hotline. Folsom Lake Honda, your one-stop Honda shop.
Hey. Just like Sam.
Hey, and there he is.
From The Athletic. He's on the video, and he's your one-stop information shop on all things NBA. Good morning, Samuel. Uh-oh. Hold on. That's not his fault. I see that the mic hasn't been unmuted.
That was my fault.
Oh, was it? Dude, it was so your fault. My gosh. Come on.
I was ready to take the blame.
Yeah. How are you, buddy?
Last week when the dog was barking, the dog was barking again, so I had the mute on. Apologies. What's up, boys?
The King seeds, they're now the number 2 seed as of this second with a big matchup against the Knicks tonight. And Sam,
Yep.
I'm not making light of this at all, obviously. Forget about the NBA and competition and all that. I think I was saying Monday, it was like a 1 hour timetable where on Sunday I got like 3 notifications: Ja Morant suspension, Brandon Clark Achilles, Dylan Brooks suspension for technical foul. Now we find out today Steven Adams out probably at least another 4 weeks. I can't remember the last time, at least on the floor and in some parts off, a team had a worse week than the Grizz.
Yeah, and I thought you might even go farther down that road. I mean, the Grizz had a terrible week. Our friend neighbor John had just texted me about the Kings catching all the breaks. And again, not to make light of anything, but if you got the Kevin Durant injury, you've got Luka Doncic. I mean, all these teams that are around the Kings in the West, absolutely going through it. But to your point about Memphis, yeah, it's brutal. We don't know when Ja's going to be back. If, there was last couple of days, a lot of chatter that this thing could be, maybe the rest of the season. Now, I don't know. When they announced, at least 4 more games, we'll have to wait and see on that front. But the Steven Adams stuff, Brandon Clark, you have a legitimate title contender that all of a sudden is just kind of fighting for its life in the standings.
Yeah, and Sam, you brought up Kevin Durant. That's the most recent thing from last night. Just a freak incident. He did finish his workout. It didn't seem like it would be much more than that, at least on the surface. And then now we're hearing reports that it could be a lot more than that. What do you know at this moment about KD's future with the Suns this season?
Yeah, I mean, credit and shout out to Dwayne Rankin. Does a good job covering the Suns for the Arizona paper for the Republic, and he had reported that the Suns' internal concerns were that KD was possibly left with a grade 2 ankle sprain. And then if you jump on Twitter and a must follow for basketball fans, I would say is at In Street Clothes is a trainer who always gives all the intel on what each injury means. And I just happened to notice that, he's on there giving the history of grade 2 ankle sprains, and it's not pretty.
No.
You could certainly be looking at Kevin missing the early stages of the playoffs. I mean, and this is a guy who only had 3 games under his belt with his new team. So that is really unfortunate. Especially, I mean, man, to have it happen kind of publicly like that when it's the first home game in Phoenix, you do feel for him. And, you see plenty of times when guys have a serious injury and then adrenaline is pumping and they try to play through it. Klay Thompson, when he got hurt in the finals, came out and shot free throws. So that doesn't necessarily indicate how serious it is, but it seems like we won't see Kevin for a while.
Well, and you also have Luka Doncic with the thigh MRI today. Yep. The Lonzo Ball news coming out that he's going to be out probably looks like another 6 months with that weird knee injury. I want to revisit something with you we were talking about earlier today. We put together a list of how weird this season was, everything from the Kyrie KD drama to Ja Morant to Lonzo Ball's injury, on and on and on. And one of the things that it's like you almost forget about it because it was before the season was the Draymond Green, Jordan Poole fight before the season started. We've talked about this before, Sam. Now that we're coming down the stretch of the season, do you think the read on that, do you think it was more serious than a lot of people thought, less serious, about the same? What's your read on that with 20 games left in the year as far as affecting the Warriors?
First of all, before our weekly enjoyable visit is over, we have to circle back to the Draymond Dylan Brooks thing as well. I know we have a lot of ground to cover. I thought that's where you were going. I started smiling because that whole situation cracks me up. But less funny is Draymond with Jordan Poole. I mean, I think it was a massive, massive hurdle for them to clear early in the season. I was impressed with how they got through it, starting with Jordan taking the high road, and kind of allowing them to get through it. But Draymond ultimately did do what was necessary. for them to move through that time. Now, yeah, I think that you do have dynamics there that were kind of laid bare rather in the game the other night when Jordan doesn't throw the ball to Draymond flashing in the middle of the lane. Draymond's upset, hands in the air, turns and quits on the play. Somebody who I was texting with about it had kind of said like, yeah, he's clearly Draymond is now choosing the passive aggressive route as opposed to the, knock you out route. But it's hard not to connect those moments a little bit. And I think more broadly speaking, and this is maybe a segue to the other thing, Draymond on his podcast, which I do admittedly enjoy, had a broad statement about their group not being connected enough, and I'm paraphrasing, and kind of mature enough to specifically to win on the road, and that it wasn't just a case of one guy needs to focus. It's got to be everybody on the same page. So that one play showed you like the exact opposite of that. And I think that's what they are struggling with.
Sam, you brought it up. So what about Dillon Brooks and Draymond Green?
So great.
I don't know. I'm like in promotion mode today. It's nothing to do with the Athletic. So go watch Draymond's response to Dillon Brooks's comments in an ESPN article. Tim Cowan, fantastic writer for ESPN, did a piece on Dillon, capturing him as one of the villains in the NBA. And he, in the story, and I did read the piece, he takes this hard left turn to where he just starts destroying Draymond and talking about how he doesn't like him and he doesn't respect him. And then, of course, you're waiting to see if Draymond's going to respond. The thing I love about Draymond's response is it's fine. It's on your pod. That's what a lot of players do these days. That's predictable. But, you talk about wanting all the smoke, which is what the Grizzlies have been known for. Draymond drops this a day before the Warriors play at Memphis.
Mm-hmm.
And that is what I respect, just in terms of, having kind of the chutzpah to do that. And he eviscerated him. And I don't know. I am a little bit, the other reason I thought it was funny, Dillon Brooks last season famously had a quote about how the Grizzlies were going to be a dynasty. And it takes a lot to get Steph Curry, of all people, to talk any trash. And I'll never forget, when the Warriors beat the Grizzlies in the playoffs, I walked out of the locker room with Steph and mentioned something else that Dillon had said that night and relayed it to Steph. And he turned to me, and I just remember he kind of smiled. He's like, yeah, they thought they were a dynasty too, and like that dynasty comment has stuck with the Warriors. And Draymond obviously threw it back in Dillon's face again in his response. So, I'm here for it. I wish the Grizzlies had Ja and all these other guys to make the game today better, but the off-court stuff was pretty entertaining.
Sam Amick from The Athletic with us. Just for context for everybody, here's the audio, which Nate tells me is clean. So here's Draymond Green's response.
This idiot said, I don't know what Draymond does out there. He said, I don't like Draymond at all. You don't know me. I just don't like Golden State. I quite frankly wouldn't like a team that beats me all the time either. I don't like anything to do with them. Quite frankly, you were a little kid in high school watching us win championships. Should be happy that you even witnessed that, or maybe college, but you get the point. You're a fan. Draymond talks a lot. You talk a lot now, so if you have 4 rings, sure, you talk a lot more. For All-Stars, you probably talk a bit more. Defensive Player of the Year, you for damn.
You cut that off right there.
I didn't go that far, so I'm going to stop it.
Okay, good call.
I think it stays clean. That part, and we can end it there, but he just goes through the resume, and then he gets real personal. And he says, 2 gold medals? And he goes, well, no, that would mean you were on Team USA, and we know how that goes. And you, like, pulling the curtain back on Team USA politics. So, yeah, he dropped the mic for sure.
Do we live in a world where Grayson Allen is in the NBA and he's not even top 2 villain? Like, it's Draymond and Dillon now, right?
Yeah. No, it is. Dillon, though, man, and this is where I'll stop poking fun at the Memphis stuff, but there is connective tissue between, like, the way they move in general has been at times entertaining, at times I think destructive, and they were a kind of a fun story on the come up. I think they are pushing the envelope when it comes to whatever that unofficial calculus is of arrogance mixed with accomplishment, if that makes sense. Like, you kind of reaches the point where people tire of it if you don't get the job done. And And so going into these playoffs, a lot was going to be on the line in that regard. And now, of course, everything's kind of off the tracks. But yeah, I mean, they got a mood out there.
A lot of great stuff coming out of Sam Amick and everybody else at The Athletic. Get yourself a subscription at theathletic.com if you don't, or get 4 subscriptions at full price like I do. Either way, thank you. It's so worth it. And Sam, and I'm standing in front of Sam here. Somebody on the text line said wearing the patented worn out dad hat, which I have about 7 of those. So I'm kind of with you. They're comfortable, right?
They are. People always comment on that. I probably need to retire the hat, not to get too.
No,
it looks good.
My late father's friends and my dad had a golf tournament called the 10 Buckaroos golf tournament. So this is very sentimental, but I do have less worn ones that all have the same branding. But this is. And the Costco sweatshirt, I'm on brand today.
Wear that hat until it falls apart. Wear the ripped T-shirt where the part of your nipple pokes out. Do the whole thing. It's part of being a dad, dude. It's all okay.
Thanks for that visual.
I appreciate that. Sam, have a great day. We'll talk to you next week.
See you guys.
See you, buddy. All right. That is the one and only Sam Amick. We'll take a break. When we come back, let's revisit a little